is gonna take crackerjack timing, Wang.
Total concentration. You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Welcome back to Thinking Critical. This is Wes, and today I'm going to take a look at what the MCU Phase 4 will look like after the release of the upcoming Captain Marvel and Avengers Endgame films. While we have information of at least 6 MCU projects currently in production, Marvel hasn't announced any new films for years and have stated they won't announce any new movies until after Endgame. This will be the first time fans don't know what will be coming next this late in the release cycle. Disney is also set to finish their acquisition of Fox, which will bring the X-Men, Deadpool, Fantastic Four, and other potential franchises under the Marvel Studios umbrella, almost completing the Marvel lineup. Some of these newly acquired properties should release in the Phase 4 schedule as well. In October 2014, Marvel Studios announced a 4-year slate of 9 films scheduled to run all the way up to Avengers Endgame, which was originally titled Infinity War Part 2. There were a few changes in the schedule, and INHUMANS was ultimately dropped after a disagreement between Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige and Ike Perlmutter, chairman of Marvel Entertainment. This led to a permanent separation between the MCU and the Marvel television properties. After coming to an unprecedented agreement with Sony, Spider-Man Homecoming was added to Phase 3 as well as ANTMAN and the Wasp. Considering the MCU Phase 3 schedule ran all the way up to, well, right about now, we should start to expect a new wave of announcements, perhaps as soon as this summer's San Diego Comic-Con or Disney's D23 conference. Marvel Studios president Kevin Feige stated the studio will not announce additions to its upcoming film schedule until after Avengers Endgame, the finale of Marvel's current Avengers saga, which may bring sweeping changes to the MCU. As we've been doing for years, we aren't going to announce anything post-Avengers Endgame or Spider-Man Far From Home until post-Endgame and Spider-Man, Feige explained. As you know as a fan, there's a tremendous amount of potential and a tremendous amount of additional characters and storylines and groups of characters that we're going to keep playing with. And again, that's a testament to Marvel and the amount of storylines and characters and amazing runs that have been in the Marvel comics. One can hardly blame Marvel Studios and Kevin Feige, as they currently have their hands full with the ongoing Brie Larson controversy, possibly affecting the film's box office. Her character, Captain Marvel, also reportedly plays a vital role in the outcome of Endgame and is expected to lead the MCU into Phase 4. After that, Avengers Endgame releases on 24 April and is expected to break box office records with an early projection of $280 million opening weekend domestically. Finally, Sony and Marvel Studios continue their unprecedented production relationship with the only Phase 4 film we have firm release information on, Spider-Man Far From Home, on 5 July. Certainly enough to keep the execs at Marvel Studios plenty busy through the summer. Some may have seen this Phase 4 release schedule on Reddit, and while it looks fairly close to the standard Marvel used in 2014, it's pure speculation. That's not to say we know nothing of what's coming up. Marvel has confirmed Black Panther 2, Black Widow, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 are in the works. It's also been reported that Doctor Strange 2, The Eternals, and a Shang-Chi film are also in various states of development. The first film after Avengers Endgame closes out MCU Phase 3 productions, Spider-Man Far From Home, will open in theaters on 5 July. Spidey not only gives fans a new Marvel film right after Endgame, but it also gives fans their first entry in the MCU Phase 4. It's not yet clear exactly how Spider-Man Far From Home fits into the overall MCU. Some theorize the film is set in a new, separate universe from the rest of the MCU, as the trailer for the Tom Holland starring film features exclusively characters who were either killed in Infinity War or whose post-Thanos snap status remains unknown. Comicbook.com has suggested the film is both an Infinity War prequel and an Endgame sequel, thanks to the heroes of Endgame creating a new timeline. Either way, Spider-Man Far From Home will be our first look into the MCU post-Endgame. While a release date is yet to be announced, another upcoming MCU film in the works post-Endgame is the Black Widow film. The reported production synopsis for Black Widow teases a prequel set in 2005 to 2006, which places it just a few years ahead of 2008's Iron Man in the MCU timeline. At birth, the Black Widow, aka Natasha Romanoff, is given to the KGB, which grooms her to become its ultimate operative. When the USSR breaks up, the government tries to kill her as the action moves to present-day New York, where she is a freelance operative. The standalone film will find Romanoff living in the United States 15 years after the fall of the Soviet Union. Black Widow is expected to take Marvel Studios' first available theater date next year, 1 May 2020. One of the biggest box office hits of 2018, Black Panther, was quickly given a sequel with writer-director Ryan Coogler set to return to lead the production. What to expect from Black Panther 2 may be one of the biggest question marks in all of the MCU. Infinity War saw T'Challa turn to dust, and the first Endgame trailer hinted Shuri's fate remains unknown. However, we do know Coogler hadn't started work on Black Panther 2 as of last November. He's certainly taken the process seriously, acknowledging that he's feeling the pressure of making a sequel for such a massive and important film. Target release date for Black Panther 2 is unknown, though some speculate it's a mystery Marvel movie set for February 12, 2021. Another sequel in the MCU, Doctor Strange 2, is also likely set to hit theaters in 2021. Given the mystical nature of Doctor Strange as a character, there are endless possibilities for the plot of Doctor Strange 2, but it's confirmed Doctor Strange director Scott Derrickson has signed on to helm the sequel. According to The Hollywood Reporter, Marvel is looking for a writer to pen the script. Benedict Cumberbatch will return as the aforementioned Sorcerer Supreme, and filming is expected to commence in spring of 2020. Also on the docket for a future film in the MCU is The Eternals. Initially introduced to Marvel Comics by the king himself, Jack Kirby, the Eternals are an ancient race of science experiments created by the Celestials, the supreme beings introduced into the MCU during 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. Recent reports indicate Marvel Studios are hoping to cast their first openly gay man in a lead role, possibly as Icarus of the Eternals. Reports also indicate filming on the Eternals is set to begin in the UK this September, potentially putting it in position to be the film slated for Marvel's November 6, 2020 date. Black Panther broke ground as the first MCU film to center around a black superhero, and they plan to do the same with the film centered on an Asian superhero, Shang-Chi. Deadline reported Shang-Chi is being fast-tracked through development at Marvel Studios. David Callahan, an Asian-American screenwriter, has been tapped to handle the script. Reports are that an Asian or Asian-American director is being sought for the project. The reported goal is for Marvel to do for Asian and Asian-American culture what the studio did for African and African-American culture with the unprecedented success of Black Panther in 2018. In comics, Shang-Chi doesn't exactly have a superpower, but he is an unparalleled kung fu master who has long been expected to make his appearance somewhere in the MCU. While Marvel Studios waits for the next 3 films to release before announcing their full slate of Phase 4 productions, the impending acquisition of Fox likely has delayed this as well. In July 2018, Disney finalized plans to acquire 21st Century Fox for $71.3 billion. The deal gives them control over some of the most iconic and historical assets in the modern American entertainment industry, including 20th Century Fox films and TV studios, the Fox Networks Group and its assorted cable networks such as FX, and stakes in National Geographic and Hulu. The Fox deal gives Disney film rights to the X-Men, Deadpool, and Fantastic Four franchises, as well as other major properties. The merger of these two movie giants could give Disney an unprecedented 40% control over the worldwide box office. The prospects of the X-Men, Deadpool, and Fantastic Four finally under the Marvel Studios umbrella has many fans even more excited about the MCU moving forward. Marvel reportedly has Phase 4 planned out already, so the schedule would have to be altered to fit the X-Men and Fantastic Four. The priority will likely be fitting the X-Men into the MCU as soon as possible, as it's been a consistent box office performer since before Marvel Studios even existed. X-Men Dark Phoenix will likely be the final film released in the current X-Men universe. I expect the current franchise and all the actors to be retired from the X-Men universe, so Marvel can rebuild it to fit the MCU. The franchise is probably in need of new blood, as it's grown stale, and there hasn't been much inspired casting choices since X-Men First Class in 2014. The Hollywood Reporter recently speculated Captain Marvel 2 could be the perfect place to introduce the mutants into the MCU following the Disney-Fox merger. How the wide range of mutant heroes will be introduced into the MCU after all the events leading up to Endgame is all pure speculation. But THR further suggested, with Carol Danvers having ties to Wolverine, the Starjammers, and the Shi'ar Empire, a Captain Marvel sequel could be a fitting place to get our first introduction to the growing mutant population. While their speculation makes some sense, I don't see the X-Men being introduced through a cosmic-based film. I believe a more logical and exciting way to introduce the X-Men to the MCU would be making the next Avengers film Avengers vs. X-Men. They can initially introduce the next Wolverine and Professor X actors in the first wave of Phase 4 films in after-credit scenes or small cameos, culminating in an event film fans worldwide would be salivating over. With what we know about current MCU productions and the dates Marvel Studios has had for upcoming films, I'll try to piece together a speculative release schedule from 2020 to 2022. Marvel Studios has earmarked 8 dates for untitled MCU movies, 2 in 2020, 3 in 2021, and 3 more in 2022, bearing in mind that release dates change all the time. I'm not including the dates reserved for upcoming Fox productions, as it's unknown if they will even be made at this time. I do believe Deadpool will remain at Disney-owned Fox as its own lightly, if even connected property. A safe projection for one of the 2020 release dates is The Black Widow, which has been a long time coming. Marvel might want to save the May opener for a sure thing, which Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 would have been if James Gunn was still involved. A third Guardians movie still could happen for May next year. Most of the cast is already in place, but they would have to slot in a new director fairly soon. Marvel has stated they intend to eventually release 2 sequels and 1 new property a year, but with principal photography on The Eternals set to begin in September, it puts it in position to be the film slated for Marvel's November 6, 2020 date. Black Panther opened to summer blockbuster dollars in January 2018, so it's safe to assume Black Panther 2 in one of the 2 February slots. A majority of the cast and the director are in place, so the February 2021 release date makes sense. As previously mentioned, Marvel will likely want to release a sure thing in May 2021, and Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 fits the bill. The cast is already in place, and they plan on filming James Gunn's already completed screenplay. This should give Marvel plenty of time to select a new director and get the film in production. Doctor Strange released in fall 2016, so it also seems a fit for the November 2021 release. So far, no further Avengers movies have been announced after Endgame, but these films have been the glue of the MCU, holding all the other movies together. I've speculated that Avengers vs. X-Men is the perfect way to introduce the mutant heroes, and May 2022 would match the 3-year span in between the first 3 Avengers movies. Marvel already hired a writer to develop a Shang-Chi movie, but it's still too early in development to schedule. It took years between the first hints of a Black Panther movie happening before it went into production, so let's assume the earliest we might see Shang-Chi would be 2022. I believe a Captain Marvel sequel will happen sooner than later, and the February 2022 release date makes sense. I also believe a Fantastic Four film will introduce Marvel's first family into the universe during Phase 4, and Feige has hinted that the MCU could expand to 4 film releases annually in the near future. So there may be room for other rumored projects like Blade and Nick Fury. That's my wrap up and speculation regarding Phase 4 of the MCU. I gave the information available on the films that we know are in some level of production, talked about how Disney's acquisition of Fox could affect the MCU, and how I believe they will incorporate X-Men into the universe. Finally, I speculated what films could slot in with the current release dates Marvel has reserved from 2020 to 2022. We should get more concrete information in the months ahead, as Endgame is just around the corner, and Kevin Feige will likely announce more information at San Diego Comic-Con and Disney's D23. Of course, these are just my takes. What's yours? What upcoming Phase 4 project are you most excited about? How do you think the X-Men and other properties in the Fox acquisition will be incorporated into the MCU? Does my upcoming release schedule make sense? Please let me know your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like. I would appreciate it very much. It helps us attract more views for the channel. Subscribe for future commentary, comic book news, and reviews. And don't forget to ring the bell for notifications. If you want to talk comics, movies, and much, much more, you can follow me on Twitter at Wes_from_TC. With that, Salamat Po, and I'm out.